This is a day that God has made. Though held in the context of a great worry, nonetheless, this is a day of celebration as we gather to transform this time into a place of renewal, revival, and worship. For even amidst the grip of COVID-19, the mainline stream of anxiety pouring out of screens and radios, the real fear, the real threat, we might yet bear witness to a new world on the way. Like the rock rolled away for the women to witness a wonder, indeed the veil is lifting in so many ways around us today, showing us the brokenness of systems, of old ways of doing business, reminding us of the perils of nature, the storm, the plague, that bitter anguish. And all the while, friends, all the while I can't help but notice that spring is upon us in full force, an experience of immortality, as Thoreau calls it. Indeed, we wake to the worry of the world amidst the wonders of nature. And it does feel like such a strange time to be alive. The Easter story, contained in the New Testament of the Christian Bible, tells a tale of a people stripped of their hope, of their faith, their dreams of a better tomorrow by the hands of a vicious colonial regime. And to tell it shortly, 3 days after Jesus was crucified, anointed and entombed, Mary Magdalene, Mary mother of James, and Salome brought spices to the tomb to anoint Jesus, only to find the great stone barring the entrance had been rolled aside, and a figure in white informing them that he was indeed alive, and that they ought to go back and inform their friends. They told the apostles, most of whom, caught in their own great depths of grief, refused to heed them, but Peter arose and went with them to the tomb to confirm the story of the women who had witnessed the miracle. They go then to Galilee, and Jesus appears before them. The apostles were understandably afraid, likely doubting their own sanity. What shade is this? They might have wondered, but Jesus bade them handle his body and showed his wounds to prove that he was indeed alive. He commanded his disciples to go and spread his message of the new covenant, to live righteously and rightly, to continue his gospel of liberation. The details differ from testament to testament and telling to telling, as stories do. But this story tells the tale of Jesus' defeat, of the death put upon him by the Roman oppressors of his era. And in doing so, he breaks the very meaning behind the cross, this traditional method of torture and execution of rebels. He transmutes its essence from one of torture and oppression and the authority of the state into one of new life and new hope and liberation. New life and new hope and liberation may feel rather distant concepts right now, but I think they can still find a home. I think they can still find a home within us in these times. I feel for the apostles, for Mary Magdalene, for the mother of James, for Salome, that uncertainty, that shatteredness, that sorrow. I look at the world past the bursting of dogwood blossoms and my heart breaks. My heart breaks. I sympathize with the fear and the unknowing, worrying what comes next. I imagine they might have been feeling like many of us might be feeling right now, quite stuck. Like they were waiting for something, but they didn't quite know what they were waiting for. What are we waiting for? We've been waiting for a long time now, waiting to know when the virus breaks, when we can return to our daily lives, return to our places of worship, our family gatherings. Perhaps I'm not the only one. I'm sure I'm not the only one mourning the simple joy of an Easter morning spent with family. Lost dreams, canceled futures, It's a lot of heartbreak, folks. It's a lot of sting and a lot of hurt. And, and you are not alone. And however this pandemic has got you feeling empty, scared, ambivalent, tired, all of the above, something else, however you are holding it, that's real. That's all right. And I tell you that despite all of the chaos, the hurt, the pain, that there is still cause to seek celebration. Maybe it feels a little different this year, and that's okay too, but we can seek the celebration amidst the crisis. Friends, it is Easter, and as Pablo Neruda writes, you can cut all of the flowers, but you cannot stop spring from coming. Maybe we are holding some cut flowers right now. Maybe we're still waiting for the spring of new life to bloom in this world. Friends, things will likely never be quite like they were before this virus. Things were never the same for the disciples of Jesus after he ascended to heaven. How could they be? And maybe some things need to change. Jesus himself was transformed. In his transforming the semiotics, the symbolism of the cross, the world was transformed by the stories told about his life, message, and resurrection. These stories we tell ourselves, shape the world we live in. Just as Jesus Christ turned the meaning of the cross on its head, rewrote the story that was laid out for him, though he still faced death and great uncertainty, I am left wondering how must we tell new stories about the world and our relationship to it and our relationship to each other, and in doing so, transform some of the brokenness of this world, unveiled for all to see by the real threat of the virus of broken healthcare system, insufficient hospitals, you name it. Look around. You see it. How will we heed the lessons that this world is foisting on us? How might we become better stewards of the wonders of social technology, these computers and screens and networks that bring us together for things like worship or just connecting between friends? In times of great adaptive challenge such as these, simple right answers may be very enticing, but they're hard to come by and they are seldom sufficient. So perhaps we ought to keep asking questions, holding our leaders to account, and that radical spirit of Jesus, perhaps the same power to become agents of transformative, righteous change that allowed Jesus to transform the cross, that boundless love that breaks the knees of tyrants, that power, that love. Maybe it still lives in us today, right now, in each and every one of us. And so we're not all called to be martyrs or activists or politicians or saints, but we are all called to be agents of change for love's own sake. This Easter morning, as the earth maybe is laughing in birdsong and flowers, or maybe it's raining, may we reflect on those women running from the tomb, running from the tomb, reminding one another always that there is more love out there and there is more love in here, that we can learn from these times, friends, grow and help others grow in these times, that a new day is dawning. We are indeed in the midst of a crisis, and crisis breeds trauma. And trauma can stick with us, change us. But there is such a thing as post-traumatic growth. While our regular Easter rituals may be disrupted, we might celebrate. Maybe we can celebrate Easter in new ways, reflecting on the lives of these women, carrying the inspiration of a radical renewal, bearing that gospel of a new hope and the power of love that can transform a symbol of torture into a symbol of liberation. This virus, it will not win. New days are on the way. I don't know what they're going to look like, but I know that within all of us, each and every one of us, there resides something beautiful, just waiting to bloom. a promise that a new way is possible, a new covenant, new ways of living, new ways of loving this world, into new ways of being through all its hardness. These and more are just waiting to be discovered. We are, all of us, going into a strange land where we will all be changed and change the world in turn with all our gifts, great and small. All are called to serve in the spirit of love, to rise with the good news of Jesus, whether he be the incarnation of God or simply a radical human teacher and leader with a righteous message. And now is a good time to get ready for that world about to be born, that we might be midwives to a new love on the way. Now is a good time to rest, to renew, to reconnect, to do some inner work, to consider the egg that takes a little longer to hatch or the tomb that didn't get opened right away. Now is a good time to find new ways to connect, to tell new stories about ourselves and how we fit into the world. Sometimes the story is a little different, and how we hear it and how we tell it can make all of the difference. As Jesus transformed the cross, we may also do our part, however small, to transform some of the brokenness in this world. Maybe that looks like helping deliver masks or running errands for a friend or a neighbor. Maybe that looks like calling to check on folks, to call our elders, to help them get connected to these amazing technologies. Maybe that looks like advocating for people, working with others to build a more just world through activist organizations in what ways we can. Maybe this looks like a lot of busyness, and maybe it looks like just taking better care of ourselves, our bodies, our minds, our souls, getting enough sleep, taking a morning walk for exercise, eating healthy, drinking water, reconnecting to those little habits, those little subtle things. The ways we transform our circumstances need not be overt or grandiose to have an impact. Sometimes the most subtle elements can have the greatest impact and send a ripple of new life throughout. Indeed, sometimes the simple things, like the poor Jewish son of a carpenter who would be called a son of God, can create the most radical, righteous change. May we find that fire. May we be gentle on ourselves. May we be fools for love and pilgrims for justice, prophets of peace, a new light in the shade, this new world that's being born and is always being born awaits your liberating ministry.